You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom? Right now, Perfect Prostate is sending out free bottles of their groundbreaking new formula to listeners of this station. Perfect Prostate Formula was developed by medical doctor Mitchell Fleischer, and its ingredients have been clinically studied to reduce your frequent nighttime bathroom visits and promote healthy urine flow. Right now, preferred customers get their first bottle of Perfect Prostate absolutely free. There's nothing to lose. Perfect Prostate is guaranteed to reduce that constant urge to use the bathroom, especially at night, and promote healthy urine flow. Don't wait. Call now for your free bottle. Just pay shipping and processing. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251. Supplies are limited. One free bottle per household. Call now. Dial 1-800-675-0251. That's 1-800-675-0251.
Hey folks, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Dr. Richard Harden. We are on the same mission, which is waking up America. We just have different paths. So stay tuned for some information on how you can keep up with Richard and all his work.
Visit Richard's website at raharden.com. That's the World Wide Web at RAHARDIN.com. At his website, you can see a summary of the 6 books he has written, where purchases may be made. He also has a link to 18 videos on YouTube and several blogs about Christian beliefs. If you prefer, visit Amazon.com/Kindle and type in Richard Harden to see and purchase his books.
Every day, the men and women of the United States Marine Corps stand ready to defend the American way of life. The few, the proud, the Marines.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. And joining me today as my co-host, being it Wednesday afternoon, is the Patriot from the Hoosier State of Indiana, J.D. Manier. J.D., welcome to Conservative Commandos.
Great to be back with you again, Rick.
Great to have you with us, my friend. Well, there's nothing in the news, so maybe we'll talk about the weather, right?
Yeah, nothing going on.
Nothing at all going on. I am feeling pretty good, JD. I mean, my spirits are high as the clock ticks down to Friday at noon. My spirits are getting higher and higher. I don't know what it is, but that's just the way it is. So what's on your radar screen, my friend?
Well, I heard you and Mary are going to the President Trump and Mike Pence's inauguration in person.
Well, we are, and we're also going to the inaugural ball, which would be a lot of fun. You know, my bride Mary, she's not into politics. I mean, she's a staunch conservative. She gives me great food for thought. But as far as going out and being on a radio and rallies and writing letters, that's not her thing. She would rather be home retired on an afternoon like today, sitting on my lazy boy chair, watching an old movie, falling asleep with the kitty cat on my lap. You know, JD, as you know, we are not paid to do this. Now, that's the frank and honest truth about it. We are not paid to do this. In fact, we pay our way to do this.
Yes.
So, but we do it for love of country. We do it's the right thing to do, but Mary would rather me be at home. But the one thing that she's always said, she would love to go to some sort of a celebration. I mean, it's been pretty tough over the last 8 years. I mean, with Obama in office. We have some very good friends like you, J.D., that have run for office that have not been successful. Anna Little's run for Congress. J.D. Manier, J.D., you've run for Congress. Anna Little's run for Congress. Daria Novak has run for Congress. And Kevin Wade has run for U.S. Senate. We also supported Sharon Engel run for U.S. Senate. And so one thing Mary has always said for quite some time was she would love to go to a victory celebration. She would love to go to a celebration party. She would love to go to a ball. So guess what? We're getting to make Mary's wish come true. I'm very happy that we are going to the presidential inaugural ball. So I feel very good about that the time that this show has taken me away from Mary, she'll get a little bit of a payback. So it's all good. It's all good.
Well, in regards to the inauguration, I've got a couple reports I looked at and wanted to talk to our people on the radio and with you about. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of got good news and bad news. Which would you like first?
How about the good news and the good news?
Let's start out with the good news.
All right.
With a little taint of bad news, and that is Bishop Wayne T. Jackson, who leads Great Faith Ministries International in Detroit. Mm-hmm. He is the pastor going to be doing the benediction at the inauguration.
Okay.
And he received some hate mail, strong, virulent hate mail, but he's unfazed by the stuff that's going on. He hosted Donald Trump up there during the election cycle up there in Detroit at his church, and I don't forget watching that on television. In fact, I watched some of the members of that church lay hands and pray for Donald Trump. That was a great moment, and I think they gave him a tall lead to wear around his shoulders. It was beautiful. Mm-hmm. But the list of preachers members of the cloth taking part in Trump's swearing-in Friday will include Reverend Franklin Graham, son of America's most popular preacher, Billy Graham, Cardinal Tim Dolan, the Archbishop of New York, Rabbi Marvin Heyer, dean and founder of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, Paula White, pastor of New Destiny Christian Center in Florida, and Reverend Samuel Rodriguez, president of National Hispanic Christian Leadership Conferences. And I think it's a great cast of people of faith. I'm so glad you're going to be there with Mary. It's beautiful. I haven't seen such a strong lineup of people of faith, Bible-believing members of so many different churches and denominations right there, main speakers. That I'm excited as all get out, as is my wife, Christina.
I am too.
That's the good news.
Okay. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, and I hate dead air JDs, so just come in with the bad news.
James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, you've been hearing about.
Well, actually, we had James O'Keefe on the show yesterday.
Well, I remember I've got videos on our INRA website about the inciting of violence at the Trump rallies during the campaign. Mm-hmm. And so he come out with a second video, and if you had him on the show, then I'm probably, this is old news. But
you should listen in every day, JD. You need to listen in. You need to listen to the Conservative Commando's radio show every day to find out what's going on. I really do.
I did miss yesterday, and that's
yes, you did.
I was busy.
Well, you know, JD, it's understandable that you can miss a show, but there are always rebroadcasts. My gosh, how many times this show did we talk about our rebroadcast and podcast and things like this? You got to tune in every day, or you'll miss some great guests. You know, we had James O'Keefe on yesterday, was talking about his video where he exposed a plot to disrupt the inauguration and the inaugural balls. There was a group planning on putting butyric acid, which is basically a stink bomb, in ventilation units. They were planning on using chains to derail the metros coming into Washington, and that's dangerous stuff. That's all dangerous stuff.
Did he talk about the second video?
Yeah, what was that?
Well, then maybe I'm providing new news. This just came out. And so a second video, a group called Disrupt J20.
Right, and he talked about that organization also.
Okay.
You know, as I said, JD, you got to listen every day. We have great guests here in Conservative Commandos. And even on the days where you're not a co-host, you need to listen. We also had former Congressman Nan Hayworth on yesterday talking about Scott Pruitt as EPA administrator. Got to listen every day.
Well, you're right.
You feel chastised?
And I should be, because I'm always telling people, we pass out cards and we urge people to listen every day, and a lot of people do. Our friends do. And here you caught me on me.
I caught you with your pants down.
Yes, you did. Oh, but it's something that we need to be vigilant about. Groups. Now the good news is we've got a lot more is on our side. You've got the Bikers for Trump. You've got 750,000 they're estimating, but you know it seems like the media always downplays when there's a conservative, even an inauguration going on. They always downplay how many people are out there.
Yeah.
But
they downplay it when it's a conservative group out there. They escalate it when it's a liberal group. You know, so they'll probably report, well, a few hundred people showed up Friday afternoon to see Donald Trump sworn in as the 45th president. and they'll downplay it.
They overstated. You remember Tim Kaine in Florida?
Yeah.
He had 37 people attend one rally just a week or two before the election. They overstate Hillary, and she'd have some of those celebrities and rock stars,
right,
with concerts. And you're absolutely right. But it is something. I mean, how many times have you received emails of the clock? I mean, I get one every day or two from somebody saying, and it's the clock, and it marks the noon on Friday the 20th. And so there was 5 days left earlier last weekend. Now there's just 48 hours, less than 48 hours, about 45 hours left.
Yep.
It's
can't come soon enough. Cannot come soon enough. And, of course, you got the whining liberals out there, JD. In fact, there's about 40 members of Congress who say they will not attend. I say good. We didn't want them anyway. I'm glad they're not going. 40 members of Congress said they will not attend Donald Trump's swearing-in ceremony. Good. It's more tickets, more room for everybody else. I'm glad they're not going. Of course, you have others. And the other news coming out of JD, and we'll talk about it a little bit after we go to a break, but Barack Obama, and I predicted this here on the Conservative Commandos radio show for months and months and months, watched the last few weeks of that as he is in office with his executive actions and his pardons. He's pardoning Bradley Manley, and I won't call that person a female. I won't call her a she. He is a man. Okay, he pardoned Bradley Manning, the traitor,
Yes.
He was convicted of 35 years of prison on about 35 different counts. Barack Obama pardoned him. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. You guessed it, today's show is being brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. JD and I'll be right back.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
there must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and Rick Trader. And for rebroadcast, J.D., I want you to listen closely. All right? For rebroadcasts, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or at 8 a.m., listen to Leading Edge Radio Network, or 11 p.m., hotplainstalkradio.com. Or you can hear our show any time of the day by calling 832-999-1199. JD, you have arranged for some very interesting guests today.
I think we, as usual, we just have a great lineup, I believe, Rick. And 3:35, a friend of mine, Joseph M. Weiss, is an international authority on cybersecurity and control systems and system security. Been doing this over 40 years. He's testified before Congress many times. And, you know, all this media brouhaha about the Russians hacking the election, the Russians. Well, it's not hacking the election where America stands to have problems nearly as much as infrastructure and all the other things that he's such an expert on. So I'm looking forward to Joe talking with us at 3:35. Then at 4:05, returning guest Lieutenant General Tom Spohr. He's the director for the Center for National Defense at the Heritage Foundation. We had him on just before the Army-Navy game, Rick.
Yes, we did.
We had an admiral and we had a general that day. The generals won.
First time in about 18 years.
Yes. Oh, that made my weekend with a son who went to West Point, and they had not won. You're like you said, it had been 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years.
Right.
We're going to talk about what Trump should be doing with reconstituting our military, and we're going to cover a lot of neat things at 4:05 concerning the military. Now, Christine and I went to the Indy 1500 gun show this past weekend, Rick, and it is the largest of its kind east of the Mississippi River. So we had thousands of people. We had a booth, and we taped some neat interviews with, first of all, the man who promotes this gun show for the last 34 years. His name is Dan Masters. He's going to talk a little bit about Trump, Pence. He's going to talk about the gun loophole, the gun show loophole that Hillary and Obama always cry about.
Yep.
He's going to blow that one up, and they're really
as it should be. It needs to be blown up.
Fake news once again. And then we have Ian Godfrey as a pastor, and he represents an organization called Damsels in Defense. They're actually out of Idaho, and they offer personal protection for women. And they're involved in a lot of things, like stopping trafficking, human trafficking. And that's our last guest on taped as we conclude the show today. But I think we got 4 great guests.
And indeed we do. Indeed we do. So,
Rick,
go ahead, JD.
I was watching the grilling of Dr. Tom Price this morning. I watched an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
And the Georgia congressman, he's up for the Trump's HHS secretary position. And once again, we had liberal Senator Patty Murray from Washington. We had Al Franken screeching. And they seem to be talking about the insider trading of health and medical stocks, as if they're trying to tag the good doctor as some kind of greedy capitalist who spends all his time up there in Washington plotting how he can create legislation that'll benefit the companies he purchases stock in. Like, that's all he does. And that's what he's all about. And
well, I watched a little bit of that, too. And Elizabeth Warren was grilling him on these talks. And I wish I was in his seat. I wish I were the one that was being questioned, because I would ask Elizabeth Warren a question. What percentage of her ancestry is American Indian, and how did she use the fact that maybe somewhere, at some time in her past, one of her ancestors might have been a little bit Indian? What gave her the right to put a minority status on her employment records so she could get a job at, Harvard University?
Yeah.
She is a fact that a very little minute part of her background may have included American Indian. And then I would have asked her, and Al Franken and the rest, have you asked Nancy Pelosi how when she came to Congress, her net worth was about $3 million, and now it's about $30 million, and a lot of that had to do with insider trading?
Yes.
No, they don't ask those questions.
Pelosi and her husband, some kind of tuna canning company offshore. Yeah. Well, Rick, here's the first thing that came to my mind is Obama. He has not signed hardly any Republican legislation in the last 8 years. So why do they think that good Dr. Price has got some gig going where he creates legislation, it becomes law, and then he invests in stocks benefiting from laws? Obama never signs laws. that the Republicans create. So it was crazy. I watched Al Franken, talk about investments in tobacco companies, and he wanted to excoriate Dr. Price on that, and Price fought back. He said, "Wait a minute." He goes, I don't watch my stock portfolios. They're money markets. They're mutual funds. He said, but I believe, he goes, you probably have, in your retirement portfolios and in your money markets, you probably have some tobacco stocks yourself. He goes, I don't keep track of that. It's according to the Washington Times, and the Trump transition team's calling this junk reporting. And man, that's what we do, Rick, is report on the truth. Because how much junk reporting, how much fake news has been going on out there, especially lately, it's mind-boggling. I saw Patty Murray claim that Price came into her office and quoted about the purchase of some kind of certain medical stock from a company in Australia where he turned a great profit. Can you see the good doctor, going in there and putting his hand up, up against the wall and bellowing out, "Hey, I made look at all the money I made, on this great stock." He said, "Nobody never said that to you, Patty." So it's crazy. But I do remember this, Rick, and I imagine you do too. John Kerry, one of the wealthiest members of the U.S. Senate, he invested in a lot of companies invested in the Iraqi war, and he reaped from $3 to $5 million during that period of time. I don't recall the press grilling Kerry about profiteering from the Iraqi war, and of course they didn't grill the Clintons and the pay-to-play schemes. They made millions of dollars from countries like Russia, Saudi Arabia, other Middle Eastern countries. It's something the left has a big oversight when it comes to conservatives making a dollar. They're going to scream to high heaven.
Indeed.
The cows come home.
Indeed.
So,
well, I don't know what to say about that, JD, other than, what do you expect from them? What do you expect from them? They get caught with their hand in a cookie jar and they're wonderful. It's going, look over there, look over there. That's what this WikiLeaks thing is all about. But you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with JD Manier and Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1316 Philadelphia, and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Don't go away, JD and I will be right back with our first guest.
Crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote en masse to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with J.D. Manier and Rick Trader. For rebroadcasts, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or at 8 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network. Or 11 p.m., highplainstalkradio.com. Or you could hear our show at any time from your phone by calling 832-999-1199. J.D., our first guest, is with us, and will you please make the introduction?
Joe Weiss is an international authority on cybersecurity, control systems, and system security with more than 40 years of experience in the energy industry. Mr. Weiss spent more than 14 years at the Electric Power Research Institute, known as EPRI, E-P-R-I, where he led a variety of programs, including nuclear plant instrumentation, diagnostics, worked on fossil plant instrumentation, controls, Y2K, and cybersecurity for digital control systems. Welcome to the Concerted Commando radio show, Joe.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
You know, the major media is obsessed with Russian hacking of our elections, which we've called here at the Concerted Commando radio show fake news. But what about the real hacking Russia and other nations are doing to our critical infrastructures? And that's where we want you to come in and sound off on that, Joe.
Well, back in October 2014, we had a presentation made at the Industrial Control System, ICS Cybersecurity Conference. In October 2014, it was identified that Russian malware was in our electric grids, and it was specifically targeting, at that time, two of our major control system vendors. So the issue is that malware has been in our grids for, well over 2 years, and reconnaissance has been done throughout that time. In the May-June time frame of 2005, the Department of Homeland Security, DHS, in one of their periodical documentations, even explicitly said that this malware is in our grids and it's coming because systems were connected to the internet. So there should be no doubt that this type of malware is there, and not just in the electric grids, but that's also why it was a bit disconcerting when the article came out in the Washington Post about that one laptop that wasn't connected at that utility in Vermont.
Yeah, that made a lot of news. But yeah, to highlight that, you did a nice article talking about the real problem. Go ahead, talk about that.
Well, again, the issue is that the control systems, these are the things that monitor, or measure and control. In other words, they're measuring things like temperature or pressure or level or flow or voltage or current. These are the things that measure things. And then the control systems react to the measurement, to change it if it needs to be changed or not if it doesn't. And these systems were really never designed with security. But these systems are now being interconnected, not just with the internet, but wirelessly or through different forms of communication. So you now have systems without adequate security being in a position to be accessed by both the good guys and the not so good guys.
Well, Joe, that's a major thing. We've heard Donald Trump talk about beefing up our cyber defenses. That's a big priority for him. What would you recommend the Trump administration? Let's get off the dime about hacking the elections. None of those voting machines were connected to the internet, but we have some strong evidence, thanks to folks like you, that we've got malware out there on a lot of SCADA systems. Explain, how that could be a major problem in our country.
Well, again, what you're talking about, SCADA, which for people who don't know stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, it's a form of control of processes, whether it's the electric grid, water systems, gas pipelines, or the large control systems in manufacturing facilities, refineries, chemical plants. But these are the systems that are used to make things, but they're also the systems used to provide safety. And that's why this is so terribly important, is you're talking about safety, both safety for equipment and safety for people. And when you compromise these systems, you're compromising, or at least potentially compromising, safety. Part of the frustration is, with all of the focus of the Russians hacking the election systems, there was very little discussion on what was actually happening, at our physical process. And there was also little mention that the Russians cyber attacked Ukraine again for the second time, turning off lights. They did that back in December 2015 and did it again in December 2016. What needs to happen is not just that cybersecurity be addressed, but that addressing cybersecurity explicitly includes the systems running our most important processes, because right now that's really not happening well.
Well, amen, Joe. That's big stuff. And our nations needs to refocus on what matters. I mean, it's one thing to come after Windows-based laptops and Apple computers, and you can get John Podesta's information and find out his password is password. But it's another thing then for our bad actors to maybe blow up a pipeline or to take down an electric grid in some place like Ukraine. We're up against a hard commercial break, Joe. Can you just stay with us a couple minutes and we'll bring you right back in?
Okay.
Well, this is J.D. Manier and your host, Rick Trader, coming to you live from the Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with the American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the Internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
And this is J.D. Manier and your host, Rick Trader, and you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, just check out our website, CTRSnetwork.com, CTRShow.com. At 8 in the morning, you can log on to LeadingEdgeRadioNetwork.com and listen to us again at 11 p.m. in the evening. Log on to HighPlainsDailyNews.com. And you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're talking with Joe Weiss, an international authority on cybersecurity. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show, Joe.
Thank you.
You were talking about Russia and the cyber warfare they've been conducting on Ukraine. Well, NATO's concerned. We've had other bad actors help bring down the grid for a while in Turkey, Yemen, Pakistan, parts of Mexico. Talk a little bit about that big concern we should all be paying attention to, focusing on.
Well, and I'm glad you brought this up because Russia is certainly not the only bad actor. A couple of years ago, you had Iran hack into a small dam in New York. I mean, they caused no damage, but they still hacked into a small dam, in this country. You've had the North Koreans, not just with the Sony attack here, but the North Koreans also, cyber attacked some of the nuclear plants in South Korea. And I actually had a chance to hear the vice president from the South Korean nuclear utility give a discussion of, what they did and how the South Korean utility found it. This was in Vienna at the International Atomic Energy Agency last year. You have North Korea who's now training, an entire cadre of cyber warriors. Obviously China has been actively involved in cyber. So it's not just one country, and that's why this becomes such a big deal. And then you also have the non-nation states like ISIS or just individual rogue, individuals. The concern is when our systems aren't very secure. Then it becomes somewhat irrelevant as to who the attacker is, but the fact that it can be attacked.
Well, Joe, talk about remedies. I'm so thankful you've come on to highlight this terrible missed opportunity we here in America to protect ourselves, and it's a big issue with Trump. What should be some of the remedies?
Well, the first thing is that people at the senior management level, whether it's in government or in industry or wherever, have to treat cybersecurity of these systems to the same rigor, with the same level of resources and everything else that they would treat with, cybersecurity of your personal information. We need to train people because there are so very, 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 very few people who really know and understand this. And there's a real need to develop appropriate technology, because most of the technology being developed today for cybersecurity is to hopefully to protect your confidential information, not to prevent a pipeline from exploding. So there's a lot of different areas we need the appropriate resources, we need management oversight, we need the right policies and procedures, and there's at least one international standards organization that's doing that, which is the ISA 99 efforts. And we also need, the appropriate technologies. And one of the biggest things we need, and this comes out time and again, which may sound like one of the most trivial things, but it's not. We need people within their own organizations to work together. In other words, we need the IT organization who knows cybersecurity to work with the control system people who understand our systems. And that's been one of our biggest, failures to date, is to even get people to talk to each other and work with each other. One would think that would be simple.
I agree with you. Samsung cell phones blowing up, and some other Samsung like refrigerators, that kind of thing. But your cell phones. I mean, I have a friend who's concerned that, and I think I sent you an email a while back. But is it a possibility that they could send viruses all throughout the iPhones or the Samsung phones, and one day we all wake up and those things go off? Is it something that needs to really be looked at?
Well, I look at it from a little bit different view. Yes, it's a real problem when you're carrying a cell phone and the battery heats up and explodes and you're on an airplane. But part of why I get concerned is that there are now apps, applications for cell phones, whether they're Android or Apple, iPhones, that allow a cell phone to become a portable control room, where from a cell phone you can control, an electric substation or a power plant or a pipeline. And that's when you better really, really, really hope that there's security in that cell phone, because it's going beyond just playing games or, watching movies. There's some real power in that cell phone.
Well, Joe, it makes me think of the move towards driverless automobiles out there, and driverless trucks and delivery trucks, and that's coming down the pipe. But obviously, if these controls get compromised, and in the same stamped kind of control, we could have a lot of trouble. Talk about that.
If you think about, you had the Volkswagen, cheat device, which was software in the control systems of the cars. Literally last Thursday, Fiat Chrysler was charged with a similar thing. If you can basically put in rogue software into the vehicles, and this is coming from the factory, that becomes very, very disconcerting.
Tomorrow, Joe, the FERC, Obama has scheduled for his last full day in office a meeting of the FERC to lay down new standards for protecting the electric grid.
Mm-hmm.
But, you and I have been watching this for years. Seems like they're only interested in solar storm protection. So, what about man-made problems, cyber, EMP? How come they won't address that? I'll let you talk.
I think they're trying to address it. Obviously, it's very slow. And there's one other thing in play, too, and that is the Energy Policy Act of 2005, which prevented FERC from addressing electric distribution and other aspects. So part of it is FERC is trying to fight with one hand tied behind their back. The utility cybersecurity standards are very weak. Because of what I just mentioned, this hole with electric distribution. Everything that happened in the Ukraine in 2015 would have been out of scope for our electric utilities here to address. That seems kind of silly, doesn't it?
Wow.
So there's a lot of room for opportunity. How should we say that?
We've had gas pipelines explode in California multiple times in this last decade. What should the Trump administration be focusing on? I mean, we're going to start a new administration here in less than 48 hours. We talk more about remedies. We always like to leave on a high note. We just have a few minutes left with you. It's so good talking with you.
Well, what I'm hoping, and what I was hoping for before, was that at the senior level of government, that protecting critical infrastructure would have as much, resources and attention as it does trying to protect your credit card. I'm hoping they do that. I'm hoping they put people in place who have some technical understanding of what needs to be done. There's been any number of attempts to get the message across. All I can do is hope that the message gets across.
And you told me before offline, there's only so many manufacturers of these control systems.
Yeah.
And they can be compromised, can't they? You're talking about pipelines, you're talking about industrial infrastructure with just millions and millions of units, control units, and those can be compromised. We only have a couple minutes left, but please talk about that.
Yeah, well, what you looked at with the infamous Stuxnet, that was a compromise of Siemens controllers. And the point is, like you mentioned, there's 2 points here. One is that there's only a limited number of control system vendors worldwide, maybe, 8 to 10 to 15, depending on, how big or how small. But also, these control systems are used in all industries and across all applications. So if you can compromise one vendor, that one vendor is serving electric, water, oil, gas, chemicals, breweries, transportation, you name it. So if you compromise one vendor, you've compromised many, many, many different industries.
Joe, we just have a minute left. How can our listeners read what you've been writing about? Do you have a blog and some websites?
I do have a blog, and thank you for asking. I also have a book. The blog site is www.controlglobal.com/unfettered, UNFETTERED. And my book is called Protecting Industrial Control Systems from Electronic Threats.
Well, God bless, Joe. It's so good having you on the Concerted Commandos radio show.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
And we're coming to you live from the Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM FM 24/7.
Crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow Patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with J.D. Manier and Rick Trader. For rebroadcast, please check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at 8 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or 11 p.m., highplanestalkradio.com, or you can hear our show from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. J.D. Manier, our next guest is with us, and the honor of the introduction is yours.
Lieutenant General Thomas Spohr is the director for the Center for National Defense at the Heritage Foundation. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show, General Tom.
JD, thanks. Thanks for having me.
You know, we last had you on, it was Pearl Harbor Day on this show, and Army won that following Saturday, the annual Army-Navy game.
A great day.
I just read this week in the Washington Times an article about Senator McCain calling for a massive boost in defense spending, totaling more than $85 billion per year over the next half decade. And he said that's just the beginning of what it's going to take to restore the U.S. military a dominant role. Please comment on those statements.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but it's needed. You know, over the last 4 or 5 years, the Army has just been steadily cut as all the other services. And so now we're in a spot in this nation where our Army is the smallest it's been since World War II. The Navy is smaller than it's been since World War I. And the Air Force is flying planes that have an average age of 27 years. You know, you can imagine driving a 27-year-old car across the country. So our military is in bad shape right now, and we're looking forward to turning the page on that. And similar to what Senator McCain said, let's get busy and start rebuilding America's military so we can operate from a position of strength rather than weakness.
You know, we've been watching Donald Trump go to work even before he was inaugurated now to pare down costs on like the F-35 fighter and Air Force One. Do you see potential great gains in efficiency and in our military readiness with this ex-businessman, soon-to-be ex-businessman Donald Trump as Commander-in-Chief? And by the way, he was a military school prodigy as his youth, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. You know, I see great benefit in this, and I don't know if it'll continue. You know, a couple of days ago, I looked up on the internet to try and figure out if our current president, President Obama, had ever even uttered the words F-35 fighter, and I couldn't find any evidence of that. So I'm not aware of him ever saying a word on that, even though it's the most expensive defense program we have underway in the United States. And so here we have a president-elect who's already spent hours of his time on a defense program, and he's not even the president yet. And he did the same thing with Air Force One, pushing on that one. I think the costs are going to come down on that. I wouldn't be surprised to see the costs come down on the F-35. He can't be everywhere. Obviously, he can't manage every single defense program. But just these little pinpricks, him pushing, is kind of putting the whole defense industry on notice that somebody's watching. So I think it's really beneficial.
Give us your thoughts on General Mattis, soon to be leading the Department of Defense.
Yeah, Republican, Democrat, either way, I have not heard a single person say a bad thing about General Mattis. And to get to where he's gotten, I don't know how old he is, like 65 or something like that, to reach that age, 4-star general, and not have made an enemy or have anybody in this whole country that can say something bad about you, and on the other, and just the opposite. You know, most people speak about him in reverential terms. You know, it's just really an icon, a paragon of integrity and honesty and scholarship. I think he is the exact right person for what our military needs today.
Feel free to tell our listeners some of the changes you'd like to see the Trump administration undertake in rebuilding our military. Go ahead and lay out your vision, if you will.
Yeah, what we have right now is, you know, the Army's been cut, the Marine Corps has been cut, Air Force has been cut. We need to get their strengths back up to where they need to be. And so I would add to the Army, I would add to the Marine Corps, get them the people they need, because unfortunately the more you cut, the busier the people that are left are. And so they've been run ragged, and they continue to be run ragged. And the families are feeling the stress of not having enough Army and not having enough Air Force. And and Navy. They're on a back-to-back rotation schedule. I don't know if you heard about it, but just the other day there was a period of time where the U.S. Navy did not have a single aircraft carrier out in the oceans of the world. And I can't remember ever such a case like that. And that's just an indicator of the stress we're under. So we need more size of our military, and then we need to start buying more stuff. Our equipment is old and worn out. The Army is using tanks that were designed in the 70s. All of our potential adversaries, China, Russia, they've all fielded new generations of tanks, and the Army's still using the old tank. The Navy is way short. They're supposed to have, by their own count, about 355 ships, and today they have 274, and they're not going to make up that ground for a long time, but they need to get on the path. And so, number of actions needed. This won't happen overnight, like Senator McCain talked about in his paper. It's going to probably take 5, 6, 7, 8 years to get the military back up to the level it needs to be to defend America's national interests against the threats we face today.
Hey, General, this is Rick Trader here. I got to jump in for a minute because I'm sitting here. I'm planning my trip to go to the inauguration, so I'm letting JD manage things here today. But did I hear you correct that there was a day there was not a single United States Navy aircraft carrier at sea?
That's correct. Yeah, I don't remember such a case. I mean, I usually think about like multiple aircraft carriers out there patrolling the global seas and commons. We had a time where there were none out there, and so I mean, it's really a sign of how.
Well, where were they? Were they in port? I mean, what do you know what circumstances?
No, they just didn't have enough to go around. I think they had a delay. One of the aircraft carriers that they thought was going to be able to get out had some maintenance problems, so it had to stay in port a little bit longer, and so that all contributed to not having one out at sea.
I think we've got 10 aircraft carrier battle groups at the present time, correct?
Correct.
Not one of them were out at sea.
Correct.
That just blows my mind. And General, you know the military better than I do. But when you are talking 5 to 10 years to rebuild the services back up to where they should be, I think, I believe, sir, and again, I'm not a military person, you are, that's optimistic, because I'm thinking of planning and building an aircraft carrier. I'm thinking that it's going to take a couple of years just in the planning stage.
Yeah,
once you get the okay to do it, just in the planning stage.
Yeah, just to build one aircraft carrier takes 5 years, essentially. So, the other thing that takes a long time is, for whatever reason, and they're all bad reasons, it takes a long time to grow the size of our military forces, because the pool of American youth, that they're drawn from is getting smaller and smaller. There are less people that qualified for military service, and then there's less people that actually want to join, and that's a national problem.
Well, you and I think we disagreed on this. I believe I asked you once before. I'm on the side of, I think that we should bring back the draft. I believe you've said before you are not for the draft. But I got to bring up the draft again, General. I mean, would you ever consider that as an option?
Yeah, I mean, before we let the country go unprotected, that would be a choice. It would be my last choice, though. I'd try a lot of other stuff before I go there. I mean, we need a national conversation going in this country about combating the rise of obesity, and we need more encouragement for our youth to complete high school and stay out of jail. But yeah, in the end, if it comes to it and America can't recruit the number of people it needs for its military, I think that's something we at least have to talk about.
Well, with the volunteer army, the way they've been able to attract young people is promise them school tuition, and all that cost a lot of money. And so when there's more money being taken out of the military budget to put men in uniform, I mean, that is less money to build weaponry. And I think we need both. So Wow, I'm sorry. I had to jump in on that because that to me, when you were talking about there was no U.S. aircraft carrier out at sea, that just and because we are seeing reports that China has launched a new aircraft carrier. They've got others planned. It's just, hey, General, we have to take a break. Could you hold on for just 2 minutes for us, please?
Absolutely.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier. And yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our guest, Lieutenant General Thomas Sporer. Be right back.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, just check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com and ccrshow.com. Or at 8 a.m., log on to leadingedgeradionetwork.com, and in the evening, 11 p.m., log on to highplainsdailynews.com. Now, you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We're speaking with General Tom Sporer, who heads up the Center for National Defense at the Heritage Foundation. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hey, thank you.
You know, listening to my wife in that last commercial, she quotes General George Patton, and it says the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses that ensures victory. So I want you to talk a little bit about the importance of morale and spirit in our military, and with this new inauguration, Donald Trump coming up this Friday. What do you see in the future?
I think there's a lot of optimism and hope on the part of the U.S. military. I think, maybe the low point was, at least for me personally as a military officer, former military officer, was yesterday with the commutation of the sentence for Chelsea Manning. But I think come Friday, I think there's some folks that have the optimism that we'll start to rebuild America's strength. We'll get the military on the right path and become a respected player on the world stage again.
Yeah, Tom, I'm just wondering if it was the Trump effect. Finally, we fired warning shots on those Iranian patrol boats just about a week and a half ago. And this has been going on. And, of course, they actually commandeered and took our sailors a couple of years ago and held them for a day or two. But it can't come soon enough here at the Conservative Commandos radio show. But it can make a major difference. Projecting force. What are some of your pet desires here as you head up the Heritage Centers for National Defense? What should we be doing coming out, let's say, the first 100 days?
Yeah, I think, the new administration needs to put together a request for additional funding to jumpstart the rebuilding of their military. Get the weapon systems, at least the production lines, warmed up a little bit so that we can turn out more planes and ships. Fund the additional increases in end strength, and then get the military on a sustainable path. And I say all that, but we also need to continue to look for ways to do things smarter. And so we should not give the Pentagon a blank check and just tell them to knock yourselves out. We need to hold them to account, make sure that these things that we give money for get delivered on time. And if they're not delivered on time, we fire those that are responsible. And there's not been an audit holding people accountable for their actions, in my judgment.
Hey, General, what about Donald Trump coming out and coming out against Lockheed Martin and the price of the F-35, and also Boeing as far as the cost of Air Force One? Do you really think that somebody with those type of negotiating skills that Donald Trump has can get our military some real deals and breaks?
I do. I think when he does things like that, it sets a good example. He can't be everywhere. He's got to run the entire government. But him just poking and prodding and maybe doing some embarrassing of these big defense companies every so often is enough to put people on notice that somebody's watching, and that we're not going to let them just steal us blind. And so I think there's great value in that. And I know there's been a lot of criticism. People say you ought not to do it. I'm not in that camp. I believe it's useful.
General, you and JD were just talking about Bradley Manning. I wanted to ask you about Gitmo.
Yeah.
Barack Obama, when he came into office, said one of his highest priorities was to close Gitmo. Well, he wasn't able to do it. There are only about 40 prisoners left in Gitmo. In fact, he's releasing a few more before he leaves office. He's trying to do as much damage and destruction to our country as he can as he is leaving the door. But can you see Donald Trump using Gitmo once again?
Well, Gitmo's serving a useful purpose. And so the people there are not criminals, and so we can't put them in, the U.S. criminal prison system. We have to have a place to hold these people because they're not entitled to a normal trial. They're just like prisoners of war.
Should we hold them there the rest of their lives?
Theoretically, yeah, we could. Because it all depends on when we declare the war on terror over. And at the rate we're going, I don't see the war on terror ending anytime real soon. And so if we don't have a Gitmo, we've got to have a place like Gitmo to hold these people that we take who have, killed Americans or have done hostile terrorist acts. We've got to have a place to put those kind of people.
Do you think these people that are committing terrorist acts on U.S. soil should also be sent there? I mean, they're acting as an enemy agent, an enemy soldier, conducting battles, if you will, here on our soil. So why give them Miranda rights? Treat them as enemy combatants that have invaded our country, and send them to Gitmo.
Yeah, I'd have to get a lawyer, and I'll be honest. I'd make a little hesitant putting U.S. citizens in Gitmo. But if we had somebody that was here in this country and wasn't supposed to be, and they did something like that, I'm not a lawyer, but I'd be okay putting them in Gitmo.
JD, back to you.
I want to talk about China. That's been in the news lately, and the rattling of their sabers in the South China Sea and this one China policy, Taiwan. Get your views on this, General.
Yeah, a lot of speculation on what the new administration is going to do, and my thought is, we need to see how they actually act. And so we've seen some tweets, and we maybe even seen some comments in interviews or rallies or stuff like that. I think the proof of the pudding is, what does this new administration do? What are their actions? What are the policies that are going to put in place? So then, rather than, at least Heritage, rather than us trying to, argue about this tweet or that tweet, we're kind of giving this new administration a period of time, and we want to actually see some actions, and then we'll see what we think about that. There is value in sometimes there's value in disturbing the status quo a little bit and letting people know that the place is under new management, and that might be what's going on here. I think we got to have a little time go by to see what's actually going on.
Right next door to China is North Korea and their ICBMs, their satellites. We only have about another minute and a half, but tell our listeners about that.
In my judgment, that's the wolf closest to the sled, and we got to keep a real eye on that. Most people believe that they can put together an ICBM today, and the only question that remains then is, can they put a nuclear weapon small enough on the top of that thing and send it across the ocean? There's a divergent opinion on that, but I'm kind of the opinion that we need to be very cautious, and them setting up an ICBM with maybe a nuclear weapon on it needs to be something that we tell them is unacceptable to the United States.
Should we shoot down the satellites if they won't let us know what's in those satellites and they orbit over the continental United States?
Yeah, I'm not a space guy, but if a missile goes up and there's any chance it could be heading for the United States versus space, I'd be in favor of shooting that one down.
How can our radio listeners read your works and support the Heritage Foundation? Can you give some contact?
Great question.
Yeah.
We've got a great website, heritage.org. You'll find all of our publications on there. All of our great analysts are there, and you'll even find ways to contact us by email and telephone, and we'd be happy to talk to you.
Well, our guest has been Lieutenant General Tom Spohr, the Heritage Foundation. It's been tremendous having you on the show. We look forward to having you on again.
That sounds great. Thank you guys for what you're doing.
This is J.D. Manier and your host, Rick Trader, coming to you live from Concerted Commandos Radio Network studios. WMJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with the American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos radio network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
There must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with J.D. Manier and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast, check out our websites, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com. Or at 8 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network. Or at 11 p.m., highplanestalkradio.com. Or you can hear our show any time of the day from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. JD, I know you and Christina had a very interesting weekend visiting the gun show.
It was tremendous. Winter weather, thousands of people, as usual, come to the Indy 1500 gun and knife show, and it's billed as the largest of its kind east of the Mississippi River. And we've got a taped interview with the promoter. For 34 years, Mr. Dan Masters has been promoting this gun show, and let's just let her roll.
All right. Thank you, JD. We will.
We're with Dan Masters of World Class Gun Shows, and they're the ones who put on the Indy 1500 Gun Knife Show. And welcome to the Concerted Commandos Radio Show, Dan.
Thank you very much, JD. It's a pleasure to have you all here and continue your relationship with us. We're obviously proud Republicans and conservatives and gun show supporters for obvious reasons. We're excited with the Republican championship across the board. We've noted with great interest the 5,200 counties in the United States, and the Democrats are now in control of fewer than 500 or about 500. A genteel good spanking, as we would say in Oklahoma. And, of course, the governor of the state that we're in, the vice presidential appointee or candidate, and we couldn't be happier about that. A great contribution to the ticket.
You know, these gun shows are they're just weekend celebrations of Americana, patriotism, our constitutional rights. And talk a little about the Indy 1500. You've done such a great job. How many years have you been promoting that?
We started this in 1983. I was flying some of the time, and we took an aviation map and began to draw larger and larger circles, looking for a place to have such an event. And finally, Indianapolis fell in, and we did some research, and there'd never been a substantial, professionally run gun show. And we started in the fall of 1983, which makes us, I guess we're beginning our 34th year. It's been good to us, and we think we've helped the community a good deal, and the gun community as well.
Well, you talk about helping the community. You know, my wife and I come here. We love just having booze and meeting with everybody, and such great support. But you have a lot of charities. We see they post booths here through the weekend. Easter Seals, USO. How does that make you feel?
Well, it's great, and we're pleased to have the opportunity to contribute to the local community and the state community. To this show, we have the USO. We have the Easter Seals. We have a veterans organization that's sponsoring a very large, a room full of the fallen heroes from the desert wars from Indiana, and some with Indianapolis and Indiana affiliations that are not necessarily native Indianans. We have the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, Dream Catchers, an organization out of Tennessee that sponsors hunting trips for the terminally ill youth. It helps us. It makes us happy. We also, of course, sponsor the appropriate sorts of politicians, by and large Republicans, as you might imagine, and the NRA and the NRILA. So we like to think we're contributing members of this local society as well as the state community.
You know, the left decries, and they want to talk about, Hillary and Obama talk about the gun show loophole. But there really isn't a loophole. We watch so many arms dealers here, and they're running the background checks.
That's I think the word probably is bugaboo with the firearms industry. There's no such thing. The only individuals that are allowed to operate a business wherein a substantial portion of their income is derived from the firearms industry, business, or trade, they must be licensed by federal law. And as a result of that, all of the background checks that are performed here are just exactly mirror images of what they do back in their retail outlets, whether it be in a mall, in a Dick's Sporting Goods, or in a local gun shop. There is no such thing as a gun show loophole. What they like to refer to, and it's a man-made, frankly, a liberal-made term, has to do with private individuals having an occasional sale, and it's no different than a garage sale or a patio sale, or having a friend that lives a couple of doors down wants to trade a shotgun for a rifle, and you do that. But if you, very clear, and the federal law and the state law are very clear, and we have, in fact, at this show, we have representatives of the Bureau, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are set up here to display, to answer questions, and to give whatever assistance they could. And we generally have, not at this show, but we generally have a serious presence from the Indiana State Police. They are going so far as to register concealed carry individuals and help them begin the paperwork to have a concealed carry. So the misnomer of a gun show loophole simply does not exist. It's a manufactured term for political purposes only.
Yeah, amen. But as I said before, this is patriotism and fun. But we see a lot of vendors from all across the country. Now, our show is in 8 states and growing, but you have a lot of presence. I mean, all people come from outside Indiana for this weekend. And talk a little about how many thousands show up, where they come from.
There's substantial attendance, of course, JD. We're proud to be, I think, the largest gun show of this kind, meaning a real meat and potatoes, real firearms, authentic, not collectors, but these are people that hunt and shoot, just everyday citizens that need and love the firearms industry and come out here to acquire that. We have exhibitors from, I'll rack my brain here a minute, Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, obviously from Indiana, Montana, and occasionally a knife collector from California who visits. Oh, Las Vegas, Nevada as well. And one of our exhibitors flies in from the Dominican Republic. Has a local retail presence here and comes from that far away. And visitors to the show are from as far away as about a 10-state area. So we're pretty happy to be able to serve gun-loving individuals and interested parties from all across the central United States.
Is it maybe the largest east of the Mississippi?
We believe it's the largest of its kind, meaning this is not a collector show, not a specialty show. It's guns and ammunition, knives and hunting equipment, and it's not, unlike some of our competitors, a high-end collector show where the weapons are $10,000 and $15,000 each. Although we do have some presence of that. 500 Guns, which is located here in Indianapolis, has some $6,000 and $7,000 rifles, double guns for Africa. So I think we're reasonably well represented across the board.
There's a lot of instructors and defense for women, and we've seen this for years. It's just a great cornucopia of patriotism and Second Amendment rights, and we appreciate you so much on that. Got just about 2 minutes left. Can you talk a little bit about our Governor Mike Pence and Donald Trump? It looks like this whole atmosphere out here, people all have smiles.
Well, the enthusiasm, which was measured by a national poll within the month for small business and individual business, enthusiasm and excitement going forward is at the highest levels since 1960. The enthusiasm for the firearms community is obviously evident. Mike Pence was certainly our choice for vice president, and will be an incredible vice president. Was a wonderful governor. Spent many hours at this show. Was here for an hour and a half at our August event, taking pictures and talking to people. And by the way, JD, your current governor, his wife is an NRA long-distance rifle and pistol instructor, an instructor from the NRA, the wife of the incoming governor, currently the governor. So obviously, Indiana's heart is in the right place on firearms issues.
Well, and your heart has been in the right place for all this time. How can our listeners learn more about world-class gun shows and the Indy 1500 Gun and Knife Show?
We have a web presence at Indy1500.com. That's Indy1500.com. And our phone numbers, we have contacts in here in Indiana at 317-870-9296, and in Oklahoma at which is our home, 405-340-1333.
Well, it's been our esteemed pleasure having you on the Concerted Commandos radio show, Dan. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, J.D. It's a pleasure to visit with you and have you out here this afternoon.
You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with J.D. Manier and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network at WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, AM, FM 24/7. Avoid disappointment and future regret. Don't go away. JD and I will be right back with our next guest.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
The Conservative Commandos Radio Show is the commander of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We've established a front line of conservative leaders and ironclad patriots to revive the promise of America.
there must be some kind of way out of here.
We patriots have succeeded in securing the next 4 years of American prosperity, sovereignty, and liberty under President Donald Trump. But the fight is never over, and we must be forever vigilant.
Businessman there, drink my wine.
Do you have a passion for American values? Do you believe in preserving the American dream? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, Monday through Saturday from 12 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 AM, or around the world on the internet at ccrshow.com and ccrsnetwork.com. Check out our websites for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
For rebroadcast of our shows, check out our website, ccrshow.com or ccrsnetwork.com, or at 8 a.m., log on to Leading Edge Radio Network, or 11 p.m., highplainstalkradio.com, or you could hear our show from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. JD, you spent the weekend at the Indianapolis Gun Show, and I know you have another interview for us.
Yeah, our next guest, Pastor Ian Godfrey, works with Damsel in Defense, personal protection products they sell, and it involves pepper spray, stun guns, as well as supporting with their Damsel House project, the adoption of the home to support girls who have been rescued from sex trafficking. So let's roll that tape.
We're with Mike Godfrey. Ian Godfrey, I apologize. And this is the Indy 1500 Gun Show, Ian, and get your talk. And it's kind of like Waters World, people on the street. But, we supported Donald Trump for quite a while in 2016. And what's your take, Ian?
Well, I just couldn't be happier and couldn't be prouder that Donald Trump won this election. The fact that he's done more before he's even gotten into office than any politician has done while they were in office in terms of keeping American jobs on this soil recently, that just really makes me proud to be an American right now and proud that Donald Trump won this election. The atmosphere at this gun show is absolutely wonderful. Consumer confidence is very high. People are very happy because they know that their rights are going to be protected. And I'll tell you, I couldn't be prouder of the things going on in this country right now.
Well, now, I know she got a hat that says Damsel in Defense.
That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about what that stands for?
Damsel in Defense is a product which is actually a direct sales company, and we come to all these gun shows and we sell our products around. One of the big things that they do is they support projects that try to cut down on things like sex trafficking and incest and things like that. So a portion of all of our proceeds go to various charities, such as the Damsel House Project, which actually are safe haven homes for children who've been rescued from sex trafficking. The Rape, Abuse, and Incest Nationwide Network is another charity. There are several charities which Damsel gives to.
That's tremendous. That's what the Trump organization has always been about.
Absolutely.
We were at Trump Tower in Christine and I in December, and there's a plaque with Eric and talking about the charities they donated to. I mean, don't you think the major media, talk a little about the major media, don't you think they really are 180 degrees? I mean, that's why we do the Concerted Commando radio show.
You don't want to talk to me about major media right now. Major media did everything they could to swing the election in the other way, and really it was a huge turnoff. Major media needs to learn to spin things in a positive direction and really show the causes that this Trump administration is going to work towards and the people he's surrounded himself with that are going to work towards those goals.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Well, speaking of fake news, what do you think about the spin that they've been trying to put on how Trump is such a hater of women and that tried to bring fear and distress upon women and that, oh my gosh, what happens if he's going to come in, and that they're actually dreading the inauguration? Talk about some of that.
I think it couldn't be more laughable. The fact is that right now what they're doing is hate pandering. The administration, since this election, has done nothing but try to mend bridges with those people who have been so vocal against them, and they just won't even give them the time of day. And so that really shows the kind of hate pandering coming from the other side. Donald Trump, none of us are perfect, and no politician is perfect. Certainly, if they want to start dragging skeletons out of closets, then that's more than fine. But I think Donald Trump is a man who not only has shown his integrity through his vice president, Mike Pence, who has shown his faith and his commitment to family, and I think through that Donald Trump shows the same exact thing.
Let me ask you this: with the upcoming inauguration,
yes,
there are actually people and even people in Congress that are trying to boycott and not even be involved in part of the inauguration. Tell us your thoughts about how you feel that day is going to be for America.
That day for America is going to be a great day no matter what anybody tries to do. Like I said, he's already doing more for keeping this jobs in the country and things like that than any politician has before they've even gotten into office. So no matter what happens, that day is going to be a joyous day. I think it will be interesting and, very telling as to where parties who are opposing him truly lie if they can't even go and recognize our new elected president.
So what you're saying then, as you represent Damsel in Defense, that we don't even have to look at that many people will say they are damsels in distress.
I don't believe that there are damsels in distress in this country with Donald Trump as president. He he does a lot of good things. His corporation stand for a lot of good things. Like I said, there's no politician that doesn't have skeletons to be dragged out of their closet. I believe Donald Trump will lead this country fairly in a direction that we've needed to go for a very long time.
You know, building the wall is a high priority, and the repeal of Obamacare. But you talk about damsel in distress and sex trafficking, that will be a major stop.
You know, there are a lot of things, you know, when he says build the wall, he is not trying to do what people say he's trying to do. He is not trying to create hate or distrust. What he's trying to do is actually create more trust in this country and make sure that the people who are in this country should be in this country, and the people who come from other countries actually respect being in this country. You know, I have a brother-in-law who is physically abusive to my sister. Well, he is an immigrant, and we can't get him out of this country because he is now a U.S. citizen. You know, and so in terms of that, I am very strongly for the fact that we need to keep people out who need to stay out, and if they commit violent crimes, then they cannot be in this country any longer. It is a privilege to come into this country.
Just have a few more minutes.
Yeah.
Tell us about Damsel in Defense, and how could our radio listeners, they have a website or a blog, how can they support that?
We do. If you go to mydamselpro.net/Godfrey Defense, that's our company. Our company directly is Godfrey Defense. You can get in touch with us that way. You can also get in touch with us on Facebook at facebook.com/Jessica Stun and Run. We are very out there. We are very committed to our cause, and we're very committed to this country and the public.
Well, thank you for coming on the Conservative Commander Radio Show.
Thank you very much,
God
guys. I
bless you.
appreciate it. God bless you guys as well. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with J.D. Manier. J.D., we got to wrap it up quickly. I want to thank you for sitting in today as my co-host. I also want to thank Mr. John Forsythe Jr. for working the boards. But for right now, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.